Hi, welcome to Bot Brack. So today I'm going to be looking at my favourite live albums, rock and metal live albums of all time, top 10. So I like live albums, but I'm not as into them, I tend to prefer studio recordings, but there's a few that I really like. And they can act as a good introduction to a band or a kind of best of. Also, live albums came of age in the 70s, I feel, because the production was getting better year by year, the recording technology. So often a band might record a song in 73, 74, and then by 77, 78, they put it out on a live album and it sounds better. So that's really good aspect of them. Sort of the first live album I can think of jumping out of the sort of pack would be the Allman Brothers at the Fillmore East, a band of gypsies. There would be early examples that people love. You're right, Heap have a pretty decent live album from 73. I think it captures them at their peak as well. It's on the probably Sweet Freedom Magician's Birthday Tour, not sure. But it's the classic Heap lineup. Made in Japan, Deep Purple as well. Too long the jams on that for me, but again, capturing a band at its very peak. And I think some live albums don't do that. For instance, Judas Priest Live 1987 one, recorded on an 86 Turbo. If Priest had made a double live album on the Defenders tour, then that would have captured them at the sort of commercial peak in America, even though the Defenders album wasn't as popular as Screaming. It was still in that time. And the mix of tracks would have been spot on for that era, but when they did the Turbo tour, although it was big, it wasn't as good, and the balance of tracks wasn't right. So that's an example there. Some other ones kind of missed the cut. A couple I like later on is Beast from the East by Dokken, their last album before they split up originally. A good document. And some cool versions of songs. Alcatraz, No Life Sentence is pretty cool because it catches Yngwie in full flight. Listen to that album. There's a couple of mistakes on it from Yngwie, and then you realise that's the only mistakes he makes the whole gig. It's quite extraordinary. I don't think there's any touch-ups on him. The other good one, actually, Yngwie Live in Leningrad was one I had. But again, that's quite interesting because you've got Joe Lynn Turner singing the songs, doing the versions of the songs that Mark Bowles or Jeff Scott Soto sung. And you actually hear on that Joe Lynn Turner's almost the perfect Malmsteen singer in that respect, because he could do those tracks but could do the sort of more AOR stuff that Malmsteen was dabbling in at that time. No Sleep Till Hammersmith is a classic live album. Again, that's a single live album. This is something we'll see. You get your long single live album, 45 minutes, and you get your double album that's often 90 minutes, but sometimes bands do kind of 60, 65 minutes. I don't think that's right, and I'll come to that. I can't think of any other ones offhand, but there's other ones that'll be dotted around. So let's get into my top 10. So my number 10 choice is The Eagle Has Landed by Saxon. So this captures Saxon at a peak. In actual fact, it's kind of in the era of Pete Gill, but he isn't playing. It's Nigel Glockler. Gill had hurt his hand or something. So Glockler's actually a better drummer than Gill. So the songs sound fantastic. This is doing the Unleashed in East model, so 45-minute album, 10 tracks. I think it works for that. There's a reissue which has extra tracks on, plays a full set, 16 tracks. And it's really cool. I think this, captures Saxon at his peak, because it was gold in Britain. It was released 10th of May 1982. I can remember the day my brother bought it. I think we were in Blackpool. And people forget how big Saxon were. Saxon at this point, was Maiden are just a number of the beast, but Saxon are the bigger band. Saxon Motorhead are massive. They're the big metal bands in Britain. You got Motorcycle Man, Sevenfold, Princess of the Night, Strong, Heavy Metal Fender, 20,000 Feet, Wheels of Steel, Never Surrender, Fire in the Sky, Machine Gun. Probably the odd track there is probably Fire in the Sky. That's a track off Denim Leather, but it's a great deep cut and it's really cool. Your bonus tracks on the reissue, making it into a double, and the band's played on See the Light Shining, Frozen Rainbow, great track off the first album, Midnight Rider, another great track of Denim Leather, Dallas Wood PM, Hungry Ears. Those are recorded at the Hammy-O, those. But that's a really, you can't complain with that list of songs. Very good. A great album to listen to, good production. Saxon's production is not great on their early albums, so again, this benefits from that rawness. So my next choice, people might be surprised by this, but I've never totally had the love for this album, and it's probably a lot of people's favourite albums by this band, and I describe it as an access album. So typically people getting into rock and metal in 79, which is just the water starting to build up before the dam burst in 1980. this would have been a gateway album to this band, and it's Strangers in the Night by UFO. I think my thing with this has been, it was released January 79, recorded 13th to the 18th 78. So it recorded, you can actually get the deluxe edition of this now, which has different performances from different nights. But I think the main problem with this has always been that the original pressing was only 13 tracks and about 63 minutes, so it didn't capture the whole set. So it's like, well, why don't you do a double with the whole set, or just do a single album, you know? The other thing is, I always prefer the studio version of the Schenker solos. I mean, the guy plays up a storm on this, and he's at his absolute peak. I just like the kind of more planned nature of those solos. But the band sound great. Phil Moggs, funny with the bit where he says, "Oh, could I ask him to fill in? Can I fill in?" Brilliant. But the CD I've got actually adds Hot and Ready and Cherry to start off with, which seems strange. But I think that's the other thing, and it benefits from that, maybe not in that order, but it's good to have 3 tracks of Obsession, because there's only You Can Rock Me's the only one, and this is the Obsession tour. Obviously Lights Out have been a bigger album, but I think that the album would benefit from maybe addition of some more tracks, like One More for the Rodeo would have been a great track, and they were doing that at the time. On With the Action, therefore adding an extra 3rd track onto from the No Heavy Petting album, and even Lights Out, you could do Electric Phase. I've seen them play that live. So the reissue's 69 minutes. So with 3 more tracks, it still wouldn't have just about stretched to a big headlining set. But it does really good versions. I mean, UFO were very tight at the time, and it captures that. I doubt there's much touch-ups on this, but this is what Schenker fell out with Ron Nevison and the band. He didn't like the mix and the choices that they used. I think he maybe would have wanted different songs, and he went and he took the hump and he left. So yeah, that surprised for many people, the greatest live album, rock, heavy metal, hard rock album of all time. Yeah, a great document of the band. I just think it could have been more. Just one other point as well, I always felt the band is slightly enslaved to this set list. When you go and see them, you get Natural Thing all the time, you get those tracks off Fawcett, and sometimes you just want to hear some different ones, and generally you tend to get Strangers in the Night plus a few tracks off of whatever album they've got coming out. I've always found that frustrating, but that's just me. Okay, so let's look at my number 8 choice, and this is Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush live. Can't find the listing on Wikipedia for this. There's the album back to front, I'm afraid. This is a good singular album. It's about 45 minutes. You got the introduction, and it goes into the answer, which I think is off Mahogany Rush 4, Dragonfly as well. So it's on the Mahogany Rush 4 tour, I think, or World Anthem. Actually, do they play the World Anthem? Yes, they do, yeah. So it's on that tour, but this is when Mahogany Rush are at their peak as a touring band and selling a reasonable amount of units in America. You got I'm a King D, excerpt from Backdoor Man, and New Rock and Roll, which is a great tune. Does a cover of Johnny B. Good, which is very good, talking about feeling. There's an excerpt from Who Do You Love? Then this is Electric Refractions of War, his psychedelic unaccompanied solo, the World Anthem, a great version of Purple Haze. So, I mean, they did Notorious Jamming and stuff like that in Mahogany Rush, so it doesn't capture that. But again, this would have been a good access album. If you want to get into Frank Marino, you get this album. I actually bought this in October '82. But the production's got to really like the mix on this. It's got the crowd noise cranked up. There's a couple of bonus tracks on this CD, and it's got the standard crowd noise mix from the desk, I imagine. But it's got a lot of excitement, and I think that's something that live albums need to do. And obviously, Frank's note perfect throughout. Great playing. Okay, so my number 7 choice is this, and I think this album, where we have to give it its kudos, the band timed doing this to perfection. They were at their absolute peak. They'd done 5 albums. They were touring their biggest ever tour at that point, and touring what many consider that lineup's best album. And of course, I'm talking about Iron Maiden and Live After Death. Now, I'm not a massive Maiden fan per se, but I heard this album when I was younger, and I've listened to it since. But you just can't fault the performances, and they tied in with the video as well. The filming at Long Beach Arena, 3 sides of which is from that show. Again, just Maiden timing it to perfection, putting a live album out at the right time, and great packaging. You got to look at the Priest double live, like I was saying, a couple of years late, and terrible album cover, like they didn't care. after making such a great live album as well. But anyway, yeah, you got Aces High, Two Minutes to Midnight, obviously great tracks off Power Slave. They do Ram and Ancient Manager, Marin and Power Slave, and basically do the 4 absolutely corking tracks of Power Slave. Revelations and The Trooper, Flight of Icarus, cracking tracks off, and popular tracks off Peace of Mind. Yeah, you got Number the Beast, Hallowed Be Thy Name, Run to the Hills. Obviously 2 great Iron Maiden Running Free off the first album. Rothschild off Killers, 22 Cates Avenue, Children of the Damned, Family Opera. Dowie Boots on a really good mix of songs, and the reissue bonus disc, you know, got Sanctuary, Murders in the Rue Morgue, and Ross for Words. Yeah, the mix is really good. The band's so tight. One of my mates used to be Adrian Smith, as it were. So what he would do, it's left and right the guitars. He would switch to Dave Murray's side on the speakers, and then he would play the Adrian Smith parts, and that's one of the ways he learned to play guitar. So, you know, a classic example, they put that out in October 84, and it was recorded March 85, you know, just capturing the band at their absolute zenith. Okay, so my number 6 choice, sorry about that, is, people might be surprised by this, but I think this is a really great live album, and it's worldwide live. So again, the Scorpions timing it really well. This comes out June 85. The Scorpions in their second incarnation, and they're at a commercial peak. And this captures the Matthias era perfectly. So they come off the back of Blackout, which is a platinum album, and then the Love First Thing album, which will eventually sell 6 million copies worldwide. So it basically, you've got no kind of Uli era stuff on this. We don't need that because that's on Tokyo Tapes. And the mix is great. Matthias plays up a storm apart from his solo spot. The band sound great. They're so tight. The audience is wide. And this is probably taken from shows between 23rd of January 84 and February 85. That's the Love at First Thing World Tour. Great video with this as well. You've got Coming Home, Blackout, Bad Boys Running Wild, Loving You Sunday Morning, Make It Real, it was side 1, Big City Nights, Coast to Coast Holiday, Still Loving You. I mean, these are just all, whether you prefer the Roth era, these are the great Matthias era tracks. Rock You Like a Hurricane, Can't Live Without You, Another Piece of Me, Dynamite, perfect tracks. The Zoo, No One Like You, Can't Get Enough. There's a 6 string, and part 2 of Can't Get Enough. You just can't fault this selection of tracks. As maybe, you know, it might have been cool to have Love Drive on, or Is There Anybody There? You know, obviously Animal Magnetism's, you know, the kind of cult album. You only get those couple of tracks, but just really good. And some of the versions of these songs are as good as, or better than the studio versions. I think Loving You Sunday Morning is a great version. And Matthias, Matthias playing on Love Drive's decent. It's not his best, but he's got up a notch, several notches by this time. He's fantastic. One of the best players of his day, and his solo on Loving You Sunday Morning is beautiful. And he just plays the planned solo off the record, but he just puts some excellent pinch harmonics in and just absolutely nails it. Yeah, this is selected from quite a few different gigs all over the world. Really good, but it just blends into a seamless show, and I love it. Okay, so my next choice is it's tributes. So this is the great Ozzy Osbourne album, Randy Rhoads, from 1987. Probably kind of controversial, probably disappointed J.K. Lee, who was the guitarist at the time. But I think this is really good again. It just captures the Ozzy, Randy, Rudy Sarzo, Tommy Aldridge lineup at the zenith. I think, I'm not sure where they're recorded, but it shows from 1981. Again, it's all blended in seamlessly. Probably missing a bit of Diary of a Madman, so maybe the majority of it's on the Blizzard of Oz tour. So it would have been nice to have more Diary. But the versions of the Sabbath tracks are good, particularly Children of the Grave. Randy is really good, his tone's better, you know, it's fucking massive, the guitar solism, and I've always found Randy's tone a bit too buzzy on those, certainly on the Blizzard of Oz album, and you know, the lead tone a little thin. Sorry, it might be sacrilege saying that, but on this it sounds massive. His solo spot's great, he does that great bit of tapping and does all the Rhodes stuff, the top whammies, it's loads of feedback. Really good, and then you get a lovely studio outtake of him at the end doing D, and that's obviously not live, but it's a live performance in the studio, and it's really haunting, you know. You just hear it, he goes, I think it's getting smooth, and you can hear the echo on the reverb, and you kind of hear the steps walking out. Really poignant. So this is a great album. Again, 70 minutes, I mean, you know, would have done longer set. You know, was there some other tracks they could have put in? I'm not sure. This doesn't seem to have been reissued, and maybe they could even dig out some more tracks and expand it. That's a great. I mean, I bought that when it came out, and that's the tail end of the live albums. But there was, because these were from albums from 80, 81, it really benefited. Okay, so so close one this, but my number 4 choice, maybe would attribute higher, is One Night at the Budokan MSG. So, in all truth, the original pressing of this was only about 65 minutes, 64. But really, again, just captures the MSG band on its first tour, I think. Going into second, the MSG album comes out later than this. So a lot of the MSG, the second album tracks they're playing, haven't been released yet. And they sound really great. Obviously the debut album tracks are good, but by this point Michael's gotten Cozy Powell, Chris Glenn, Paul Raymond, and they're absolutely on fire. If you watch the German show on video, I think from Rockerplaster on TV, they're just awesome. Gary Barden, really good. So you got Armed and Ready, Cry of the Nation, Tackling Mad Axeman. That was it. On this album, you only had 3 tracks assigned. It actually came out at a kind of nice price. It was about $4.99, so it charted very high, made number 5 in the charts. There's a remastered edition which expands it to 75 minutes, so it's more like a full headline set, so you get 16 tracks. Really good album, and Michael plays phenomenal. I actually prefer this to The Strangers in the Night, because on this, he plays solos that are different from the studio recordings, but he finds some cool stuff, like on Attack of the Mad Axeman, he does an amazing lick, and his tone. There was one time when my mate bought this album, I hadn't heard it in years, and it was early 90s, and we'd had some fancy cigarettes, and he put it on. It kind of blew my mind, actually. It really got me back into Schenker. I was about 21, 22, and just his tone kind of filled the room. We were listening on this shitty record player, and it was just like, fucking hell, Schenker. I was like, I forgot how incredible Schenker was, and after that point, he was kind of back in vogue with my listening. Okay, so my number 3 choice, again, this might be a surprise, because this probably would have been number 1, or number 2 certainly, moons ago, and it is fucking the definitive live album by band, but I tend to reach for the final 2. But of course, it's Live and Dangerous by Thin Lizzy. This was actually recorded 14th of November 1976 and October 21st, 1977. The overdubs and mixing done in 78. So this is great, and this is, I think, what's satisfying about this for a lot of people. It's a full, proper live set. I mean, the length of this album, just let me look, apologies, 76 minutes. So, it's pretty much capturing a full show, and you've got 17 tracks. I think if I've got one criticism of this, I love the Johnny Fox album, because it's recorded probably more Jailbreak era into Johnny Fox. Maybe could have had a bit more of Johnny the Fox stuff, but you do get some great stuff. You've got Jailbreak, Emerald, Southbound, Rosalie, Cowboy Song. I mean, I think this is the album that really cements those Jailbreak tracks, Dancing in the Moonlight, Massacre, great track. Still in Love with You and Johnny the Fox. You got Don't Believe a Word later, so those are the 3 Johnny the Fox tracks. Then they did Cowboy Song, properly, Boys Are Back in Town, of course. Warriors, that's the kind of deeper cut off the Jailbreak, but that's the 5 tracks. Then Are You Ready? Great, a track that was only released on this album, such a great idea. Having an exclusive live track. Suicide, the only track off Fighting, other than Rosalie, sorry. Brilliant. Nice to have a couple of Fighting tracks, maybe a wild one. Sha-la-la-la, again, coming off a Nightlife album, but with Brian Downey's brilliant drum solo, and maybe not the best Lizzy track, but works brilliant and shows off Brian Downey's skill. Baby Drives Me Crazy, there's a good jam there. I think, does Huey Lewis play sax? And then it finishes with a rocker, taking it right back. There's rumours about overdub. Phil replaced bass, they want to replace guitar. I don't care about that. It's about capturing the essence. Southbound's actually a sound check, so you'll hear that fade in. So what happened is they recorded the sound check, it was so good, and then they overdubbed the crowd noise. But again, obviously the Bad Reputation probably wasn't out when they recorded a lot of this. So again, that Bad Reputation's another track which would have been great if it could have been on. So it's not quite the definitive set list it could be, but it's just, I think if this is the one double live album, apart from Strange in the Night, that people tended to have or tend to have, and that if they don't have anything by Thin Lizzy apart from one thing, it would be this. Yeah, bonus tracks, CD extra tracks. Sorry, you have got Bad Reputation opening trail. Now I'm not sure. I've got this 2011, so I am I need to dig. I might get that. Okay. So my number 2 choice, I did not have this album when I was younger. I never heard it, and getting into the early 90s, my mate bought it, the same guy who bought the MSG, bought it on vinyl. I think I recorded it, or did he get it on CD? And it just slowly got into my consciousness. I think I never bought the album because we had the studio stuff, and like I said, I was never as fussed about live, but it's the Scorpions Tokyo tapes. And this is just, bar a few things, it's fucking amazing. I think it's coming to the end of the Uli John Roth era. It just signs it off perfectly. And Uli's playing's absolutely superb. Uli and Rudolph, absolutely brilliant. And it cements Uli's position as the preeminent, along with Michael Schenker, hard rock / heavy metal guitarist of his era, with Brian May and Richie Blackmore just coming in close behind him. Absolutely superb. Again, this has that wonderful thing. It's got a track. It starts with a track that's not on any studio albums. It's All Night Long, which is really good. Pictured Life, Backstage Queen, Polar Nights, all those off Virgin Killer. Then In Trance, Wheel Burn the Sky, absolutely maybe the seminal version. Going Into Suspend Love, again a track that you can get as a bonus on Taken by Force, but at that point was only on this album. So just adding something special there. In Search of Peace of Mind and Flight of the Rainbow, again beefing up those tracks and making them really good. In Search of Peace of Mind's off Lonesome Crow. So it's cool. This is going right through the era, even before Uli Roth. He's a Woman, She's a Man, Speedy's Coming, top of the bill. Then it kind of, they do a version of Hound Dog and Long Tall Sally. I think this is where it comes unstuck. It's not uncommon for bands to do kind of things like this back then. Obviously, the Frank Marino album had some old rock and roll references. Like Uriah Heep album I mentioned before has a rock and roll medley. That's maybe some of that was recorded in Japan. But anyway, so don't like that bit. Then you got Steam Rock Fever, the song really Roth really hates, but I like it. Dark Lady, then they do the top Japanese sing-along, which I love, and then Robot Man. The version I have, that's on there, I've just looked up 18 tracks. The CD is 17 tracks to fit them on. I mean, this is 85 minutes, so it's a proper set. The remastered edition with bonus tracks, you've got Hellcat, Catchy Train, another version of Polar Nights, top of the bill, Robot Man. There's obviously different versions. It could probably do with more Virgin Killer on it and a little bit more Taken by Force. But I think, have I got some, on this version, have I got Catch a Train? Apologies, I'm just looking here. No, I haven't. I've also got Backstage Queen. So I think it's time for me to get another copy of this. Okay, so that's my second choice. I just think it's a brilliant performance. Apart from those rock and roll things, it would be a 10 out of 10. So my number 10 choice was Eagle Has Landed, 9 Strangers in the Night, 8 Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush Live, 7 Live After Death Iron Maiden, Worldwide Live The Scorpions, 6 5 Tribute Ozzy Randy, MSG Live at Budokan 4, Live in Dangerous 3, Tokyo Tapes 2. So my number 1 choice, which will not surprise people if they follow what I'm into and what I do, and of course is Unleashed in the East. This is the classic single album, single set live album. Vocals are overdubbed, we all know that, I don't care. He's sung live through a studio. Live albums about giving people a live experience. It's not about it being live. Take, for instance, the Van Halen live at the Tokyo Dome thing they put out. There's no touch-ups on that, and it's pretty painful at times with Dave. Although I kind of love the fact it's not touched up. But the thing, this is a version of Exciter's better than the studio version. Superb. As is the version of Running Wild. So that's tracks 1 and 2. And you got Sinner, equaling the majesty of the original. Great version of Ripper. And then, remember, the Green Man Unleashed, we now get that on our version of Killing Machine, but back in the day, it wasn't. It was only on the Hellbent for Leather, the US version. So again, Priest doing that savvy thing where you've got a track that wasn't you couldn't get on a studio album. This was another Access album for a lot of people. I think Sebastian Bach's Skid Row, which was his first Priest album he bought, and it's his favourite album of all time. So, yeah, that was side one, and then side two, you got Diamonds and Rust, again, probably a better version than the studio version. Victim of Change's brilliant live version. Genocide, superior version to studio version, and a great version of Tyrant. And this introduced people to the Sad Wings tracks. Remember the band, I think the reason I put these on, remember the band lost all its rights to those first two albums. So I think they favoured the Sad Wings tracks as a way to introduce people to early Priest, but get some Wonga from those tracks. And yeah, for a guy like Al Atkins, who co-written, Victim of Changes. So I've never read that they did that, but it wouldn't surprise me. Now, you got a free Japan EP with this. Back in the day, which is Rock Forever, Delivery Goods, Hellbent for Lemon, Starbreaker, which kind of extends it to a full set. Within the UK, they actually had a 3-track EP with Rock Forever, Hellbent Forever, and Beyond the Realms of Death. Yeah, I've just always liked the 9 tracks. I mean, why Priest didn't do a double, but I think you've got to remember, Priest weren't that big at this point. They were getting big. And this is between Killing Machine and British Steel. Again, it comes out in 79 when that flood is building up and the dam's going to burst. So they timed it perfectly, and the record company were probably like, well, we're not going to do a double album for Judas Priest, they're not that big. Remember, UFO had, Lights Out was a big album, quite a big album in the USA. Thin Lizzy very popular in Britain, hence they get the double disc. So yeah, that's engineered by Neil Kern and produced by Tom Allen. It starts with Tom Allen as well, the relationship with him. You also get Les Binks playing the classic tracks. This is his last album as well. But it's just great. The atmosphere is great. Halford, the sinner, Green Manalishi with the two-pronged crown. You can remember every intro. I got this. It's one of the first Priest albums I got. It was probably like the 4th or 5th one. I can't remember. I seem to remember listening to it in the summer holidays back in '81. But this is my favourite live album of all time, hands down. And it's just a classic metal live album. Like I say, one of the Priest's great albums. Okay, so that's my top 10 live albums of all time. Guys, taking 27 minutes. So. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you sometime soon, and thanks for checking out. Remember to share and subscribe if you enjoy these videos. Thank you very much.